So we meet again. Here we are. I believe this might be I think it's part three of a solo chat with Chase. We're cutting straight through the chase. You, me, my camera, unadulterated commentary on everything going on in the good old US of A. I'm here to be your guide. What is it? If we're having a seance, I actually don't even know. I'm a little over my skis on that, but I'm here. You're here. Let's just be aware of everything that's going on. Let's dive into what's going on in the culture because you know what? It's all right. It's okay. We don't need Reed Carter anyway. But Reed Carter will be back inevitably, I believe, on Tuesday and should hopefully be able to join us in this adventure from here on out uninterrupted. God forbid, unless something crazy in the world happens. But that said, we have some stuff to dive into today. It's going to be a little bit of a quicker episode. It's a slow news week or a couple of days slow in the sports world. There's obviously stuff happening. You got the NBA going on. I don't really care about the NBA. They're coming back from All-Star break. NBA is just a bunch of overpaid drama queens anyway these days. Used to be great with rule changes and just certain personalities. I know people still like it, don't care. College baseball is winding itself up. There's some good stuff going on there, but it's hard to talk about college baseball because who's going to watch it? You got college basketball coming straight in to the tourney time. Women's basketball, hit or miss, not very good. There's huge disparities. But on the front of basketball, the big thing that's been leading really the sports world, and that's where we're going to start this podcast off, is the Brandon Miller conundrum. I'm not quite sure. Alabama has found itself in a little bit of a sticky wicket here because Brandon Miller, their star player on the best team in the SEC, besides maybe Tennessee, has been caught up due to his own kind of stupidity. Either way, we'll dive into that here in a second. In the death that happened in I should say mid-January, January 15th, of Jemiah Harris that involved a fellow teammate who has now been kicked off the team, Darius Miles, and I believe his buddy. I don't think he had any association with the Alabama basketball program, Michael Davis. So just a quick refresher. On January 15th in the early wee hours of the morning, Darius Miles and his buddy Michael Davis were involved in the unfortunate death of Jemiah Harris, which was a dispute that happened in a parking lot on the Alabama Strip, which is sort of their bar area there, sort of the main drag in Tuscaloosa. Been there before, funny enough. Not that it really matters, but the only time I've been in Alabama on the Strip during a Florida-Alabama game, there actually was a shooting that occurred that night. So I guess maybe the Strip is just shoot 'em up city. I don't really know. But where Brandon Miller gets involved is, we all know, Darius Miles got himself kicked off the team, indicted for capital murder. Michael Davis, who he provided his own personal gun to, killed Jemiah Harris. But what was not discovered until basically a couple of days ago was that Brandon Miller was on his way to pick Miles up and, for all intents and purposes, delivered the gun that Miles inevitably used, inevitably provided to his buddy Davis to kill Jemiah Harris. And so a whole uproar has gone as to why should Brandon Miller be on the Alabama basketball team. He should be suspended. ESPN reported it. He played against South Carolina last night, had himself a hell of a game, scored 41 points in a double OT thriller, irrespective of his situation off the court. The guy is not fazed by the incidents that have been thrust upon him. According to their coach, Oates, he's been a model citizen, essentially. And when you dive into a little bit of the details of this story, I sort of side with Coach Oates that it came out wrong in his presser, but it seems to be wrong place, wrong time for Brandon Miller. As this incident transpired, Brandon Miller was going to pick up Darius Miles. So happens that Darius Miles had texted him while he's on the way saying, "Hey, I need to essentially have my gun. Please bring it to me. We have something going down." Miller had no idea what this dispute was between the two parties. wasn't aware of it, didn't even know where Miles's gun was. It just so happened to be under some clothes in the car that Miller was driving to come pick up Miles. Obviously, when you get into the situation there, that gun was then picked up by Miles or Darius Miles, given to Michael Davis. The events unfold as they go. Apparently, Miller was there when the shooting occurred. He was in the car that he was using to pick up Darius Miles. Miller fled the scene as the gunshots started going off. Apparently, the details of the squabble are not out yet, but it seems like the shooter of the other party shot first. Darius Miles and Davis shot back, inevitably killed Jemiah Harris. Probably drinks were involved, alcohol was involved. It's unfortunate that people really aren't able to control their emotions under the heat of alcohol and under the substance of alcohol. It truly is sad that people get that riled up. It's unfortunate. A lady is now, and a mother of, I believe, a 2-year-old son has lost her life. That son is now motherless. And it's just tragic all the way around. I don't know if there's any other way to state it more bluntly or just more realistically. It's just utterly tragic. The incident that involves Miller is that he was obviously there. There have been some talking heads, specifically more on the conservative side of the aisle. The one that I saw originally was Clay Travis of Outkick, who still is just dying on this hill that Miller should be suspended. He should potentially be facing, charges from the law. And as you break it down and as you heard a little bit of the synopsis, Miller didn't know that this gun was there. He obviously had received the text. He didn't realize he was facilitating a gun to an incident that would eventually lead into someone's dying. He realistically is truly, unfortunately, in the wrong place at the wrong time. He was trying to do a good thing by coming to pick up his buddy. Didn't know what was going on beforehand. I think at hindsight, we're all playing Monday morning quarterback, trying to say, hey, well, he should have known X, Y, or Z, when he had no idea, right? It's 2:00 in the morning. He was probably, just hanging out, trying to do a good thing, getting his buddy, who I'm only assuming was under the influence of alcohol. I pray, because that at least makes it doesn't make any of this right, okay? But it at least justifies the irrationality of that entire situation. But Miller, in my opinion, everyone seems to be on the side, not everyone, but a good substance of and subset of Twitter seems to be on the side of that Alabama's handling this poorly. Miller needs to be suspended. His draft stock should potentially be hit by this. And I'm truly of the opinion, when I first heard it, I overreacted a little bit. I thought everything that the Clay Travis parties of the world were espousing was correct before I read a little bit deeper into the incident. I'm going to try and share here what ESPN said just so we can all see it here. But it truly is just an unfortunate circumstance. I don't believe that Miller should be suspended. I truly think he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He didn't even know that the gun was in there until Miles came and got the gun from underneath some clothes. Apparently, it was hidden underneath clothing. And then, as you'll see here in what I'm about to share, and I believe I have it straight there. So here's the story in ESPN that sort of explains and gives the synopsis of what was going on. It said, according to Standridge, is how I'm going to pronounce that, Miller was already on his way to pick up Miles when Miles texted him to bring him his gun on the night of the shooting. Standridge wrote that Miller never saw Miles's handgun, that it was, quote, concealed under some clothing in the back seat of Miles's car. So Miller was driving Miles's car. He doesn't know that a gun that Miles possesses is going to inherently be in that car. He then added, this is Standridge, that Miller never touched the gun or was involved in the exchange between Davis and the alleged shooter and the third party, correct? So that being said, you get a little bit later into here. I believe, Coach Oates then just said it was a, quote, wrong place, wrong time. And when you give that little synopsis, if that holds up to be true, it really is that circumstance by the way I'm seeing it. From all things that we have heard is that Brandon Miller has been a upstanding citizen and model citizen at the University of Alabama. Why people are trying to go so hard at him and the University of Alabama for this, it is my only assumption is because in this world of clickbaity type of stuff, that's what drives traffic, right? You get that conversation going, you get people to come to your page, you get people to click and have impressions on whether it be your tweets, your videos, yada, yada, yada. You rile people up. And that's what I think the Clay Travises of the world are doing right now. If you look at the facts of the situation, it truly seems, as we have the situation laid out right now, that Miller was trying to do the good thing by picking up his buddy Miles early in the morning, again, at the Strip, which is a bar-laden avenue in Tuscaloosa. So I think he was trying to do a good thing that inevitably led to the death of a woman that he had no foresight that this was going to happen. It truly is a tragic situation. Your thoughts and prayers go out to that family, especially to her kids. You never want to see. I was unfortunately never from a shooting, thank God, but I unfortunately lost a parent of mine very early in my childhood, not at 2, but at 11 years old. And so it's no fun losing a parent early. It definitely traumatized is, I guess, a correct word, but it definitely does affect your emotions as you grow up in life, missing a loved one, whether it be a mother or potentially a father. So it's not a good incident or a good scene, no matter which way you try to squeeze it. But when you involve Brandon Miller into this situation, I think you just have to realize, hey, he was trying to do a good thing. From the evidence we have right now, he was driving Miles's gun. He doesn't know what Miles has in his own car. If I have my car parked and I have one of my buddies come to pick me up in my car, I don't think it should be expected that they know what is in that car or give it a quick once over once you're going to get them. So it's sad. The people should be held accountable. Davis and Miles should be held accountable for their actions. There's no excuse for popping off gunshots that early in the morning over a dispute that was probably stupid, right? And it doesn't excuse the gentleman who was with Jemiah Harris for doing whatever he did. Okay, so we have several people involved that are not using their better judgment. I get it that these people, I don't know about the gentleman that was with Jemiah Harris. I believe he was also in his 20s, but you have young adults, men who, let's just be completely honest, have testosterone running through their body, don't make the best decisions anyway, irregardless of adding alcohol or disputes on top of it. It's just utterly tragic. You hate to see it. And again, you pray for the family and that they come through this on top, and that hopefully the son of Jemiah and Miss Harris will be able to be raised by loved ones who obviously care for him and want to see the best future for him. Because that's really what I'm concerned about, is that child of hers, that he just gets taken care of. And obviously Miller, from the vantage point I have on the situation, I think Miller is doing everything correct. I mean, he has gotten a lot of adversity under his shoulders right now. Let me stop presenting this. He's got a lot of adversity on his shoulders right now. And when the administration cleared him to play, he came out and absolutely balled. So kudos to that guy. Seems like if you're an NBA scout, you have this situation and you're seeing what he's performing as right now. And we'll see how the season finishes for him. The way he's being portrayed and the way he's handling himself, if he is going to be a lottery pick, I mean, this is something that has to at least check a couple of boxes into the guy's mental will, the guy's mental toughness. Hopefully he keeps on the straight and narrow, because from what I've seen of him, the dude is ultra talented, and it doesn't seem like he was in the wrong here. It doesn't seem like he was willfully putting himself in a bad situation. He did not know what was coming down the pike in the next 30 minutes to an hour, however long it took for this incident to transpire, because as that article I just stopped sharing says, he left the scene as the shooting occurred. I believe he left his couple buddies. Maybe they were in the car, but I believe he left them behind. So he didn't want himself to be in that circumstance. It's unfortunate that he was. I don't think, now that I've read all this stuff, that Coach Oates' comments on the matter were that tone deaf. I just think that we live in a world these days where everybody jumps to conclusions very, very rapidly. I even did myself once I heard the spiel from Clay Travis. But once I read a little more details, which I think just people don't do, they hear something, then they want to jump right at it. But once you read a little bit more of the details, nobody in the state of Alabama is looking to charge this young man for his involvement in the incident. And I think that's correct. I don't think he was an accessory by any means. I think he was an unwillful accessory, if you want to go that far. But that's been the big news when it comes to the situation happening in Alabama. And you got to feel for the kid. Hopefully he'll get through it. People will come to their senses, just come down a couple of notches on the rhetoric, the hyperbole, just all the insaneness. But when we're speaking about hyperbole and just being insane, that's what you need to do when you're coming into a fight. That's sort of how fights are broadcast, correct? So we have a big fight. And this is sort of the last big thing that I can think of happening in the sporting world this coming weekend. Besides, if you care about XFL, that kind of stuff's happening. Basketball's obviously happening. Baseball will be happening, whether it be, well, no, it's not the 24th. Yeah, the 24th. So we're going to have spring training stuff happening this weekend. College baseball, obviously, basketball in the college world is amping itself up. But the thing I really want to watch, and what I enjoyed seeing a little bit of a clip of, is we have Jake Paul and Tommy Furry finally fighting this Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. And this has been a battle in the making for, I want to say, about a year or two now. And what I didn't know about Tommy Furry, I'm sorry, this might, I'm not going to say no homo, right? I'm just going to say it like we used to in middle school days. Tommy Furry is, I don't know if you guys have seen Tyson Fury. Tommy Furry should be a model. I don't know why he's fighting. Homeboy is like literally, and I'm going to show you this video here. Homeboy is like model status. But what happened is they had their pre-conference presser, and it seems like Jake Paul and Tommy Furry have now agreed to an all or nothing bet on the fight that Jake Paul proposed. We're going to bring up the video here in just a second. Let me get it for you. And I'm actually excited to see what will happen. This made me want to see the fight because I truly had, a mild interest, but it almost makes me want to pay for the fight just due to what potentially can transpire here. So let's bring this up. It's 44 seconds long. Let's listen in to what Paul has to say here.
I think we make a deal then, since you're so confident. If you win, I'll pay you double what I'm paying you already. But if I win, I take everything that I'm paying you. Deal or no deal, since you're so confident.
Got to say right here, and you're going to see it later on the video, Tommy, but let's just see. Here's Homeboy. Let's look. Boom. Who is this guy? Why is this guy a fighter? He's apparently 8-0 in his record, his pro career, so he's not. Obviously, you don't know necessarily the caliber of people he's fighting, but they're alternatively pro fighters that he's battling against. He's 8-0 in his career. I don't get why this dude's a fighter. He probably, I swear to God, could probably make more modeling. It's crazy.
No deal, since you're so confident.
Take it.
Deal or no deal?
Take it. Take it.
Sit back down.
I just want to shake your hand.
Sit back down.
Answer the question.
You've dealt. You've got a deal. All or nothing. All or nothing.
Oh, it seems like Daddy came in. Daddy came in to accept it. And Tommy can't back down now.
Oh, you heard it? He's got it.
And you know what's funny, Tommy, is that your dad agreed to the deal before you. Your dad. I think we met your dad agreed to the deal before you. Your dad.
That is true. His dad did agree to the deal before him. But that gave me a little bit more just interest in the fight. Ooh, I got a little coiffed hair. For those of you who are thinking, oh, Chase's hair is a little more buoyant. It's a little more bouncy. It's a little more beautiful tonight. Well, that's because I washed my hair. A little shampoo conditioner action. It's looking good. Maybe not Tommy Furry good, but it's looking good. Here's something I want to show you, though. Here's a just look at this guy. Just back to the model thing. And again, I don't want to like call into question my sexuality here. I'm very fine in my, masculineness here. But look at this guy. Why is this guy fighting? This guy needs to be a freaking, I'm going to say the wrong thing here, but like an Abercrombie and Fitch model or something like that, a Hollister model. I don't even know. What are the big modeling agencies these days? This guy has no business fighting. I guess you can make more in the fight game if you're that good, but why is he doing this? I don't know. Compared to his brother Tyson, this dude's like a Greek god. So that's another big event happening. I think that might be the event of the weekend, but in my likes. I don't know how much the pay-per-view is going to cost, but I am very interested in seeing it. I really do want to see, because this will be the true fight. I know Jake Paul has gone against some guys, some that are smaller in his stature. I think he did fight Floyd Mayweather, which, Floyd's Floyd. He's way smaller and he's just better, right? Floyd Mayweather is one of the greatest boxers, especially greatest boxer in his weight class, probably of all time, and arguably just of any weight class of all time. He's a true assassin, not a huge knockout artist or anything, but when it comes to just the technical levels of boxing, he is an IQ and a defense that not many people can muster. It's hard to lay your hands on him. And he's a showman, as any good boxer is, right? I mean, all the greatest boxers are in their own way showmen to an extreme. But I think this may very well be the fight of the night. If you bear with me for 1 second, I want to see Jake Paul and Tommy Furry fight cost. Let's see how much this thing's going for. Will it say? It says a live stream here. I don't know. Okay, it says it's been trying to happen since 2021. Pay-per-view, ESPN Plus. So I guess we're going to have to see on ESPN Plus. I'm pretty sure these things are typically available for about $60. I don't know if I'm going to drop $60 on this thing. I've got to be honest, probably not. But it's tempting. It's tempting. Because for all you know, if you pay I don't know what the undercard is. I'm only assuming they got one. But, it's probably sort of gimmicky. But we'll see the highlights. We'll see the highlights as those transpire. So those are the two big sporting topics happening. I say we pivot ourselves a little bit of news de Americana, the news of the day within the U.S. The big thing that I saw and that intrigued me, just because it's very similar to a Trump policy that was proposed and then blocked by a court, is that President Biden is proposing a rule since Title 42, which was used under COVID to sort of mitigate, not that was happening very well, mitigate some of the migrants that were happening, illegal migrations that were happening over the past couple of years since the pandemic. And since that's going away, I believe in May, the Biden administration is proposing a rule to bar asylum to most migrants unless they can prove they were denied refugee status within nations that they passed through. And so that's essentially meaning that if you came from any other country except Mexico itself, or I guess potentially if you're coming through the northern border, but let's be honest, that's not nearly as big of an issue, that you will then be denied status because you probably would be able to get asylum status in Mexico. To me, obviously, like I said earlier, mirrors the Trump policy rule. To me, on its face, absolutely necessary. Should be a rule that had been in place. Congress itself needs to get its butt in gear, pass a immigration law. At this point, just let the freaking dreamers become citizens, right? And then establish clear and concise immigration laws. Because let's be honest, man, this is not fair to anyone. These cats aren't taxpayers. They will pay, I guess, a payroll tax, but they're not taxpayers in the sense of their local or state government. More times than not, most of these dudes and ladies are getting paid under the table, a little, I don't know, just a little exchange, quid pro quo. I don't know. Is that correct? I have no idea. But they're getting paid under the table. And so it's not fair also to those who are trying to immigrate from another continent, say, whether it be Africa, Asia, Europe, right? I mean, you're punishing people who don't have the good fortune, not saying you're fortunate to be poor and desperate in Nicaragua, but there's a lot of poor and desperate people in other countries that want to get here too. So our whole immigration system needs to be reworked. The way we have it now as well, where essentially if you become a citizen, you can now sponsor your parents, parents, other associated family members. On its face sounds kind of good, but who the heck are these other people? Are they necessarily deserving of becoming American citizens? What are their ideas? What are they trying to espouse in this country? Whether it be, hardcore communist, a hardcore Muslims, like the whole spectrum there and anything and everything in between. We have no idea what some of those things are happening down the pipeline. After we get one quality one, are we then letting in like 10 bad ones? So that whole situation needs to be just reworked, retooled. I think we all need to come to some compromise, but in this world of utter partisanship, it's probably not going to happen. I think I'm tilting at windmills, pissing in the wind, and it's going to spray back and hit me in the face. I'm going to get a golden shower. So what I like is that it's a respectable rule by Biden. I'm going to try and call balls and strikes as best I can, even though I am a conservative guy. So I am going to more than likely lean towards the conservative party more times than not. I guess in other news, semi-other news, Pete Buttigieg finally made it to East Palestine, however they want to pronounce that. Trump obviously went, I believe, 2 days ago. Listen, I have my qualms about Trump and his presidency, but that gentleman is just, irregardless, a truly funny guy. He goes to East Palestine. He takes some, first responders and policemen, and then a little bit of other people into a McDonald's. Says he's going to pay for all their food. Fine, homeboy's a billionaire, so he can, easily pay for all that. He brings some water, does the whole political gestures as he's trying to rerun for the presidency. He still ain't going to get my vote. He's done things that are, irreconcilable, and utterly he's just not appropriate for the job by my likes. But you can't deny that the guy is truly funny. I would definitely go get a beer with him. I'm not going to lie. And I think we'd all have a good time. I'd definitely play around a golf with him. Apparently he's a little bit of a cheater on the golf course, but you know what? Sometimes I am too. Just give myself a little kick onto the green there, a little bit of a throw, sitting on a bad lie. Let's move that. Let's just move it right there. But irregardless, back to the topic at hand. He goes there and goes to McDonald's. And this is just, again, where he's a funny guy. He says, hey, I'm going to, I can't do a Trump thing, so I can't do it because, I'm going to pay for everybody here, the policemen, the firefighters, and everybody here associated with it. So, you guys, I know the menu. I probably know the menu better than anyone here at the McDonald's knows the menu. And it's like, no, you don't. No, you don't. He eats McDonald's and he eats trash and fast food. I guess they're kind of synonymous, but there's no way he knows that menu better than people at the McDonald's. But his utter ridiculousness is truly funny. And so I know that people sometimes can't get past what he's done, and he's done some pretty bad things, especially in my eyes. On the political front, no doubt. And his rhetoric from time to time is truly just disgusting. But you got to take the moment, since he's a force in the political world that's not going anywhere for at least another couple of years. It's truly funny, and you can see why people sort of get enchanted by his charms, because he does have charm. He says things that then make me lose that very quickly, but he does have his own sort of, New York Northeast style charm. And when he shows it like that, it is truly funny. It's just when he, really dives deep into his narcissistic tendencies that he can become a little much. But that being said, to really pivot back to the true topic at hand, I do like this Biden rule. I think it's necessary. The southern border, if I'm not mistaken, we're somewhere in the range of 6 million people. And I think under the Biden administration, we're just north and maybe even over. But if I had to over under it, just because I'm not going to look, how many people have crossed that southern border? It's in the realm of 10 million people. If I had to do an over under, and that's my line, I'm probably going to go a little bit under that, probably in the 7 to 8 range. But that's ridiculous. You can't have that. I like immigration. I want immigrants to be here. but you have to have people who are going to bring tangible, positive traits to the country and that want to be Americans. There's something to be said that people who are making this trek hopefully want to be Americans. I mean, they clearly see that there's a brighter future for them and hopefully greener pastures if they're able to come to this country. So that in and of itself is something. But at the same time, you have to do it the right way. And to have a system that we have right now where you can just go to the border, claim asylum, whether you truly are an asylum seeker or not, just because you're, you know, having issues in your homeland doesn't necessarily make you an asylum seeker. There was a podcast I was listening to just the other day by a great news outlet called The Dispatch. They're more of a center-right leaning organization. I would recommend everybody go over there and subscribe to their, because I think they do one of the best jobs of in the news industry of trying to just be straight shooters as best they can. Of course, there's a bent to the right, but they are pretty good straight shooters. But it was a Dispatch podcast. A woman named Sarah Isgur was the one leading this with the former Congressman Will Hurd. And Sarah Isgur was in the Trump administration at the DOJ, Department of Justice. And she was saying that, and I don't know why I laugh because it's not funny, but she was saying that even if you're technically being beaten and abused by your husband in your home country, since we're on the topic of Nicaragua, let's just keep it Nicaragua. That doesn't make you an asylum seeker. It's a horrible, tragic thing that's happening to you, but that's not worthy of claiming asylum in the United States. That title is really supposed to be meant for people who are political asylum seekers, who are actively being targeted for potential death or imprisonment from their country of origin and falsified claims, right? So we really do just need to retool the system. I think most people, of course, if you go to the extreme right or even potentially the extreme left, you'll get people who are anti-immigration, because when you go to the extreme right, it could be race-based, which is not good. And if you go to the extreme left, they were the real champions of closed borders beforehand, because how do you pay for welfare systems that some of these and a lot of these people take advantage of when they get here and they're not paying into the system, right? That's the problem, is when you have welfare states, you have to have tight borders, because otherwise these people are, for lack of a better word, mooching off what's being given to the actual needy people in America. We have needy people in this country right now. I have my qualms of how the government goes about helping them, or even if they should be involved in general. But that's something that is now being, sucked on from the illegal side of the world, where it just needs to be solved. It needs to be solved. And something else that needs to be solved is we have a bird flu crisis in the United States right now that's wiping out farm-raised birds. And by that, I mean chickens and turkeys. It looks like, and I didn't know this, but the avian bird flu, when caught by chicken or turkeys, is essentially 100% mortality rate for that bird. In the past year, so from February of 2020 to this February, 58 million birds, chickens, and turkeys have been or have died, from the avian flu, the bird flu. 83% of these cases, 84% of the cases are caused by wild birds bringing it to these farms. Apparently, it's so contagious that just sort of gusts of wind can bring it into barns, and these birds can pick it up either on their feet or on something else on the ground. Obviously, some of it comes from whether it be trucks or employees, but 84% are coming from birds, wild birds. And it's devastating. I mean, I think that if I'm not mistaken here, yeah, egg inventory right now is 29% lower. So if you went from January of 2020 to January of 2022 to December of 2022, there are now 29% less eggs in circulation, for lack of a better word, than there were obviously in January of 2022. This is by far and away. So again, 58 million birds have died from February 22 to February 23. This is the biggest outbreak on record. The next largest one was in 2015. It sort of happened from 14 to 15, where 50 million chickens and turkeys died. It looks like 43 million egg-laying hens have died. And so that's where you get these skyrocketing costs, utterly skyrocketing costs of the price of eggs and the price of chicken. And it really does hurt, obviously, local small farmers and even the big guys, and it makes their margins a lot tighter. I want to see if I can't bring this up here. Where is it? Where is it? Doop-a-da-boo. Why? Why? What? Where is this? It's an epic battle. That's how the New York Times says it. It's an epic battle. So I want to share this here. Shows right here as you're bringing it up. Egg-laying hens. This country, Verisova Management Co., who has tens of millions of dollars, invested all this money into laser systems, sound cannons, and on-site worker showers so that they can prevent this stuff. Has had 8 million of their own birds die. And it just shows that. And so the last outbreak, I believe 2 million were killed. It just goes to show, and here's the stat, we're saying the avian flu is nearly 100% mortality rate for these chickens. So says the CDC. It's kind of crazy. Who would have thought that the birds were so brittle? I know that their bones are brittle. They're pretty much hollow, but these birds, good God. I mean, I like my eggs, so get on it. Oh, I think, more than 43 million egg-laying hens have died. Where I really wanted to get to was a stat. Here it was. The shortfall sent wholesale prices of Midwest large eggs to a record $5.46. So $5.46 per dozen in December. And as we know, in January, skyrocketed even more. Clearly, small egg producers are facing rising costs and threats of a new outbreak. It's not good. It's totally not good. There's some good stuff here. So you can see wholesale eggs, 22. You can see it right here. $3.8 on average, December of 2022. And it's only gotten worse. I think it's now starting to calm down just a touch. But I never truly realized how bad of a I guess it could become a crisis, but how bad of an outbreak this was, and how many birds just die. I didn't realize. If you're gonna twist my arm about it, I didn't realize we had this many birds and, for lack of better words, circulation, popping squats and pushing out eggs. I knew they're, Chick-fil-A's got to get their chicken breast from somewhere, but it truly is. It's kind of crazy. And here's the stat. So the largest outbreak that was previously recorded was from December 2014 to June 2015, and it killed more than 50 million chickens and turkeys. Lord, that is crazy. 84% of it is responsible by, here we go. I like this stat. So the birds affected on a monthly basis. Look at this in March, 20 million. And again, this is like 100% mortality rate. I know these are animals, but could you imagine if there was some disease like this within the human population that in 1 month, 21 million people plotsed? Oh my God. Now, as you can see, though, it's starting to taper off just a touch. In January and February of this month, boom, boom, not even 1 million have died. So it's getting a little bit better. But I think, as you can see, it takes a minute for all this stuff to rebound. Now, I don't know how old chickens have to be, and this article didn't necessarily say, but I'm assuming they have to become, I know that the lifespans are pretty short, but I'm assuming they have to be a few years, or at least a few months, let's say, old before hens get into maturity to where they can start laying eggs. So I think that's sort of what happened in January, December. You have the holiday seasons coming up. Inventory still gets very, very short. You're trying to rebound January, February of this year from a catastrophic, let's say, for lack of a better word, at least catastrophic to these farmers, outbreak. Not good. So we have that we're battling. I love my eggs. Give me a little scrambled egg. Give me a little over easy. I need it for my French toast, for my, fried chicken. I need it for everything I'm making, right? And yeah, I think you even need it for bread. I actually don't know if that's true. I'm not much of a baker. with buoyant, bouncy hair like this, you know, you got people just kind of feed me. That's why I'm so fat. Regardless, in other news in the US of A, some, I'm going to say sexual perverts have gotten a little bit more just desserts. R. Kelly was sentenced to 20 years in prison. He also, that is now on top of his 30 years. So he got this sentence, I believe, in New York. And that is on top of the 30 years he had gotten previously for racketeering and sex trafficking. So this guy is now eligible to be released from prison at 80 years old. And so instead of being trapped in a closet, it looks like R. Kelly is going to be trapped in a jail cell for quite some time. I don't know if he's going to be able to do this, and I don't want to make light of what he's done, but can he come out with a 16-part series called Trapped in the Jail Cell, Trapped in the Jailhouse, you know, pent up in a prison? I don't know. Whatever he can come up with, maybe he can, you know, come up with a story and sing it to us, because I like Trapped in a Closet. But irregardless, maybe he does it, maybe he don't. I don't think it's going to be in the works. Homeboy's getting his just desserts for basically exploiting his wealth and fame to do bad stuff. And so this is kind of what you get. It's good to see when the justice system does what it's supposed to do, whether, you know, it doesn't forgive all the stuff that happened to those women, but, you know, at least it's the chickens, for lack of a better word, have now come home to roost. We just need those chickens on farm somewhere to give us a little more eggs. Pivoting again to another sexual pervert. This one probably, I don't know if it's worse, but definitely on par. Harvey Weinstein. Weinstein? I don't know. One of those two is correct. He was sentenced to another 16 years on top of the 23 years he got in New York. For a third-degree rape charge. This is now in California for sexual assault and other crimes. Got 16 years. He's the gentleman who was, I believe it was Miramax. He was the guy, when you think of like the Hollywood casting couch to give sexual favors for women to get themselves roles, he is that guy. And so this is, again, just the, you know, fruits of people's bad deeds coming to fruition, and he is now, you know, going to serve, what is that? That's 30, so that's 49 years in prison. I believe he's 70 something, so I would imagine he's going to serve the vast majority of that time, and maybe he'll be able, as he's dying, be able to get out and spend some of, you know, his last few days on earth as a free man or in parole, however they decide to do it. But this guy is going to be spending the rest of his life behind bars. And when you're committing rape and you're, you know, basically demanding sexual favors of women, that's what you deserve. I think a lot of the Me Too stuff that was spawned after this is completely overblown. But when you're actually doing wrong stuff, you got to be put behind bars. So that's good. And to keep it light, let's transition into the world news and let's talk about nuclear war. How about that? Let's talk about nuclear weapons, because it's looking like Russia is now rolling out some new ICBMs. It's not just North Korea that can roll out new ICBMs. Again, for those of you who may not know, ICBM, intercontinental ballistic missile. So they're apparently deploying their new, I'm going to call it Sarmat. It's SARMAT. I'm going to share this here. Russia, who has recently gotten themselves untethered from the New START treaty with us in the Soviet Union, with us and the Russians, basically capping our warheads and stopping new ballistic missile designs or new missile designs. The inspection stuff was stopped in 2020 due to COVID. This is now a new announcement. Again, it comes on the brink of the war in Ukraine. I'm assuming Russia wants to, you know, strut their stuff and essentially be as tough as possible in the face of, the U.S. and the West trying to basically beat them down over in Eastern Europe. But here you can see Russian President Vladimir Putin says he plans on deploying, I'm going to say this word is Sarmat, intercontinental ballistic missile this year, as Russia touts its nuclear might against the backdrop of setbacks within its conventional forces, setbacks with, good Lord, I can't read today, with its conventional forces in Ukraine. As we see, I believe the Pentagon here, ooh, look at this old man. As we see here, boop, 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 boop. Oh, here's where it says the Pentagon official said that the Sarmat system is expected to be able to carry 10 warheads on it. So that's sort of the big news, is that this sort of ballistic missile can carry multiple warheads on it. That is not good. The U.S. has had this capability. I don't know what our missile system is that can do that. That was one of the big things during the Cold War that we had, is that we could, I used to know the name, and I don't want to waste your time trying to Google it and give you dead air. But I'm imagining we still have ICBMs with that capability. But the only silver lining in this, as you know, the war in Ukraine potentially could escalate out if China wants to get itself more involved, is that Russia still says they're going to be abiding by a rule in the New START treaty that will limit their warheads to 1,550 nukes. That's between the U.S. and Russia. Both can't go beyond that. As of, I believe, 2020 or 2021, Russia reported that they currently have 1,549 nuclear weapons. I'm assuming the vast majority of those are thermonuclear, not just, Hiroshima, Nagasaki A bombs. I'm assuming they're hydrogen bombs that are very, very devastating. So not just to keep it light, keep it casual, keep it fresh, free, and fun. Wanted to talk to you guys about the nuclear weapons program that Russia is trying to modernize. It's a controversial world. And these are the types of things that happen when you kind of botch foreign policy. I know Americans don't like to hear it. We love to focus more on domestic politics because, truthfully, it really does matter in your day-to-day life. But foreign policy is huge. America plays a huge role in foreign policy. And for us as a country to not care about it as much, not necessarily a good thing, because when you botch situations, whether it be, however you want to determine whether it be, you can go a long way back, whether it's Korea, Vietnam, the Gulf War, Iraq and Afghanistan, COVID treatment, however you want to say America botches things, it all culminates, if you're not on top of it, if you're not even really giving it a casual thought, that you get people like this who, are trying to press their advantage that they see they have. Things aren't going well for them, Russia in particular, and the advantages that they're trying to press against the West. But you can see how things can start spiraling out of control. And I think that, we have a generation that has grown up very luxuriously, and I'm one of them, right? I'm 30 years old and fat as hell. So I've definitely enjoyed the fruits of the United States' gifts that they've given to us. Yay, capitalism. But we got to just be attendant, aware, and on top of things that are going on in the world. And that being said, being on top of things going on in the world, the U.S. is ramping up its troop presence in Taiwan, the disputed territory in the South China Sea that obviously China claims as their own. Taiwan says they're independent. U.S. plays a weird game of not recognizing Taiwan's independence, but also saying China, no soup for you. So the U.S., they're not deploying much. Apparently, the U.S. will deploy 100 to 200 troops over the course of the next few months to Taiwan. It's sort of a strategy thing, just to make sure training is going the best it can. Obviously, they're planning, coordination, showing strength in front of China that, hey, us and Taiwan are united. I think it's a good move. Oddly enough, and that's a very small troop presence when you look at the troops we have across the world, especially, just go to Okinawa in Japan. We have, tens of thousands of troops there. You go to Germany, we have tens of thousands of troops. But it's a 30-year high, apparently. I think it's a move that's needed as you have the Ukraine stuff going on. I think it's a wise move to, hey, China, don't get any, rash thoughts of going and invading the Taiwan island or the island of Taiwan. So we need to be strong on both fronts. I know that we live in a partisan world, man, or a partisan country where no one, if one side thinks something, the other side instantly pivots, says this is wrong. But I think in foreign policy, we really all have to come to a kumbaya moment. Let's get around the campfire. Let's get a acoustic guitar out. Let's just strum a couple of notes on things we really need to do. There's people out there like the Tucker Carlsons of the world, the Glenn Greenwalds of the world who are kind of just jackasses. I mean, I enjoy it's Glenn Greenwald, who has done some very good journalism. Tucker Carlson used to be a lot more interesting of a person than he is currently. He's a little more of a partisan hack at the moment. They both have, well thought out, semi well formulated opinions. But I think they're a little pie in the sky. Truthfully, I think that the way they think about how foreign policy would progress without the United States actively pursuing some of their interests in the world are just kind of asinine, and would lead directly to another major global conflict. So that being said, those are the two big things on the news so far. What I want to wrap the show up with is a couple of funny things, at least to me. The first one that I want to show off here is a former Biden official, Sam Britton, I believe his name was, who was with the Department of Energy. I think he oversaw some of our nuclear stuff in that regard. Pretty sure he was touted as the world's first non-binary, yada, 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 whatever that stuff is these days. Everybody's got, some brush that they're painting with that's not man or woman. But he was essentially a very glorified cross-dresser, right? He was the one that got let go inevitably. It kind of took the Biden administration a little bit to do this, but he had stolen like multiple things of luggage, of just random luggage in the airport. Comes out that, and I'm going to butcher this lady's name, so I apologize, but it comes out that a Tanzanian designer based out of Houston, Ashaya Kemson, no idea. I'm going to say Asaya Kemson. That's where I'm going. She apparently, who lost her luggage in 2018, claimed it, has apparently now come and found that Sam Britton was wearing her personally designed, custom-made clothing, wore it to public events, wore it, just out and about, and there are receipts. And so I want to share here just some of this stuff that is so rich. Like, it is the just desserts of just this guy's jackassery. And so let me get it here because it is something to behold. I think this one here. Okay, yeah, here's just the feed. So let's go to the first thing here. So she goes, "Hi, my name is Asaya Kamson, whatever, a Tanzanian fashion designer based in Houston, Texas. Go America. I lost my bag in 2018 in DCA. I think that's I don't know. I think that's the DC airport, DCA. Recently, I heard the news and Fox News, on Fox News, about at Sam Britton's luggage issue. Surprisingly, I found his images where he wore my custom-made she says outfits. Oh, she doesn't space it. I thought she said outwitch. I was like, what? That's a little odd. Outwitch. Where basically her clothes were in her bag. And you can see right here in this first one, this is the lady on the left-hand side. And you can tell some of the patterns are very similar to what Sam Britton is wearing here. So he took this lady's clothes. He's now basically the world's most famous cross-dresser, and he was taking this lady's clothes and he was wearing them. Here's another one which says he even was in the jewelry. Yeah, he was even in some of the jewelry that she had. I mean, it truly is crazy. I want to keep scrolling through because I think there's some others. There's one. Here's my favorite. So you can see here. Here she is. Here's a dress that she made for a fashion show. And here he is. I don't know what this event is. It looks like 3 Oliver. Oh, this was a Netflix show that, I think is about some gay gentlemen. Not quite sure, but it's a Netflix show that he went to the premiere of, if I'm remembering this correctly, and he wore the dress he stole that was in her luggage in 2018. Here it is. And that's what he's wearing. It's astonishing. Like, if poetic justice, karma, whatever, this is it. It's truly, truly absurd that this guy is now getting outed by this lady for just utterly stealing her stuff. Like, how is this possible? Britain, brutal for old Sam Britton, the thief himself. Steal it, Sam couldn't keep it under wraps. He just had some, I don't know, greasy palms there, I guess. But speaking of just poetic justice, maybe karma, this one, and then I'm going to cap this off with, was by far and away my favorite. Angela Davis, who has been known for some of her civil rights stuff. Apparently, she was a member of the Black Panthers back in the civil rights movement. I believe the Black Panthers were the biggest in the late 60s and 70s. I think maybe mostly the 60s because you have the civil rights legislation happening around that time frame. She is also a very ridiculous communist. She's a radical. She was once on the FBI's most wanted list because she was apparently provided the weapons that were involved in a killing, if not of a police officer, of a corrections officer. So she's crazy, right? I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of her civil rights history. She may have done some, respectably good stuff, but her rhetoric and just, most of her beliefs are probably on a little bit of the wild side. And so she apparently is not fully Black. You'll be able to see here in a second when I bring this up, but she went on a show. Let me bring this up here. Where is it? Henry Lewis is, I believe, the name of the show, or excuse me, Henry Louis Gates Jr. So he does this show on PBS here that can I bring it up now? That essentially goes through the ancestry of the people that he brings on. And as we're going to watch here, it's only 49 seconds long, so we're going to watch this whole thing. Angela Davis is in for a little bit of a surprise about her ancestors. Let's watch.
Any idea what you're looking at? That is a list of the passengers on the Mayflower.
No, I can't believe this. No, my ancestors did not come here on the Mayflower.
Your ancestors came on the Mayflower.
No.
You are descended
No.
from one of the 101 people who sailed on the Mayflower.
Oof. That's a little bit too much to deal with right now.
Did you ever, in your wildest dreams, think that you may have descended from people who laid
Never.
the foundation
Never.
for this country?
Never.
So the lady who is probably all about the systemic injustices of the world, how the white man has put into place a system that's meant to beat down the minorities, this, that, the other. Her ancestors are apparently those said white people who created the system that she's apparently been oppressed by. So it goes to show, if we're going to talk about reparations, she has a portion of herself that's Black. She does have ancestors that were brought over as slaves. She's clearly not 100% white, right? But how does this work? Does she get a cut on her check if she gets one? If we're going to go the reparations route, what happens to her? Because she sure as hell ain't fully deserving. So that, to me, is as rich as it gets. You got Sam Britton and Angela Davis, just people who are arrogant and way too over their skis on the stuff, getting their just desserts. Also, another fun fact of Angela Davis, she also has in her family a ancestor who owned several slaves. So Angela Davis sucks to suck, man. It goes to show that history is a little bit more complex did most people like to espouse, herself included. Karl Marx probably didn't have anything for her on that, huh? So that said, Reed will hopefully be back next week. Obviously, thoughts and prayers with his family as they deal with, certain life events that have been happening. Like and subscribe. If you enjoyed this show, leave a comment. If you have any questions, concerns on anything, let me know. Ideas for topics. Who the heck knows? We're going to try and keep rolling things out one day at a time. We're trying to improve. We're trying to, get this show off and running. Hopefully you guys are enjoying it. If you want us to touch on something that we maybe didn't see in the news, feel free. Go to our Instagram page, go to our Twitter page, go to our YouTube page and comment. We're going to also try and get this thing going as just a podcast itself, so you don't necessarily have to be tied to YouTube, but YouTube is the best for creators. We all know that. So again, like and subscribe. We'll be back here on what day? Tuesday of next week. And enjoy your weekend. Go ahead and watch that Jake Paul fight. We'll probably be talking about that. And don't worry about what's going on in the world today. We will have all these problems still here tomorrow. And with that said, adios. We're always on, but we're off.